Tamil professional.
I am a Tamil professional. I am a Tamil professional.
I'm a Tamil professional.
When someone asks you how you can be better, what you want to improve on, how you want to develop, we always have an answer. It's human nature to focus on our weaknesses, but what if we told you to focus on your strengths in order to work better and be better? If someone were to ask you, what are you amazing at? What would be your answer? What is your superpower? Surround yourself with people that encourage you to be who you want to be and brag a little about what you bring to the table. No matter what your experience is, we all have superpowers. You've worked hard to be the person you are today. You know yourself better than anyone else. Don't wait for people to tell you what you're good at. Own it.
Hi, my name is Alex, and my superpower is optimism.
My superpower is building relationships.
Enthusiasm.
Perseverance.
Foresight.
Expert investigator.
Our superpowers make us unique, and this is what makes our team strong. There's strength in our differences. Together, we are Ellis Don.
Hi there, I'm Suresh Sriskandarajah, and I'm a business and technology lawyer. I want to talk to you about my law firm. I attended the top schools in Canada, including the University of Waterloo and Osgoode Hall Law School. I have degrees in engineering, law, and an MBA. I work for leading technology firms in North America, including Microsoft and Amazon. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and over the years, I have led tech firms, directed business incubators, and have taken ideas to market. In short, I understand your world, your anxieties, and your needs. I will use this passion and experience to represent you and protect your interest in all aspects of the law. Let's connect for a complimentary legal consult. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to Ctpa's Signature Networking Mixer Toast to Success 2021. Today, we will celebrate the incredible achievements of professionals in the Tamil community and lead positive discussions on resilience and embracing change. My name is Abhisha Viknabalan, and I have the pleasure of being the head of signature events at Ctpa this year. I would like to start off by thanking you all for taking the time to register and joining us virtually at this year's event. Today is about inspiration, celebration, and networking, featuring a conversation with the incredible Maya Shankar later today. Before we dive into this year's event, I would like to begin this event with a land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa communities. We acknowledge that this land and the people, because the first step to reconciliation is recognizing the enduring presence and resilience of Indigenous peoples in this region for time. This is also a small and important step for building positive relationships with Indigenous peoples. At CTPA, we strongly believe in a shared understanding of our collective past, how it brought us to where we are today, and how it will walk us together into a better future. Now, as a reminder, our online webinars, the chat, and the visiting of our website follow our online privacy policy and our rules of conduct. CTPA is committed to providing a safe and inclusive environment and will not tolerate or condone harassment, discrimination, or any pattern of inappropriate, disrespectful, or vexatious behavior. Remember, anything that happens in person during our webinars apply online as well. We're all here to have a good time, to celebrate and learn. So let's not forget this as we continue with our program for tonight. As we look to get started with this year's event, I wanted to give you a quick overview of what to expect today. We will start the event with the traditional lamp lighting ceremony and dive straight into the main event for today that all of us are very eager for, a conversation with Maya Shankar. Afterwards, we will announce the Toast of Success Award recipients, this year followed by a mindfulness activity before our closing remarks. To wrap up today's event, we'll be holding a final discussion as well to reflect on the themes discussed in the conversation with Maya, with a wide range of professionals across various industries. Normally, in our in-person events, we would take a few minutes to conduct the traditional light of a lamp ceremony. Since we're online and unable to do so, I would like to take a few minutes to explain the importance and significance behind this action. Have you ever thought deeply about why Tamil events start with this tradition? Through the simple act of lighting a lamp, we are able to illuminate the room and eliminate darkness. That darkness can be symbolic of ignorance. Light eliminates that and encourages acceptance, tolerance, and being open-minded to hearing various perspectives in a room. At Tamil events, as seen in the image, we usually have two lamps called the Kuttuvalakku. Another interpretation of this is that the 5 points on this lamp signify our 5 senses: sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. Lighting these 5 points serves as a reminder to be mindful with our senses, to be alert and ready to listen and accept others in the room. Both are similarities and differences. Let's bring that out with our mindset with whoever we meet today and network. Next, I would like to call upon Gopi Brody, Chair of CTPA.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Abisha. On behalf of the Canadian Tamil Professional Association, I would like to welcome you to Toast to Success 2021. This year marks our 13th year in service, and we have continued to implement our vision of creating spaces that encourage all emerging and established professionals with the opportunity to expand their network, further their professional development, and enjoy the fruitful benefits of mentorship. In Tamil, there's a Tirukural, which is quite fitting for what we strive to do here at CTPA. It goes, Idanil parvatum opporavikku kolhar karanari kachi avar. In other words, this Kural states that wise people who serve and do good for the community will serve with their whole heart, even if they don't have any wealth or have lost all of their wealth. In our context, I believe this Kural can be interpreted to mean that people who serve and support their communities with the time and resources they have, even if it's not a lot of time or with the best of resources. This Kural is a good reminder to all of us to continue pursuing our vision, regardless of the obstacles this pandemic or life in general has thrown in front of us. In this past year, CTPA has continued to expand upon our definition of what it means to be a professional through highlighting non-conventional career paths while also educating our members on trends for the future. In this coming year, we plan on increasing our audience by engaging our youth and also reconnecting with our alumni to address their unique needs and bring their expertise back into the organization. We also plan on expanding our ties with community partners of different ethnic backgrounds as we recognize the diversity that makes Toronto so beautiful is also a wonderful resource for all of us to expand our networks and leverage the unique strengths of different communities. Before I pass it along, I would like to take a moment to thank my team, the 2021 board, for all of your support, as well as our dedicated team members that makes events like these possible. A special shout out to our events and marketing team for all of their hard work over the past months to ensure today's event is as impactful as possible. Thank you to our past board members, team members, sponsors, and advisory members. As an organization that is entirely powered by volunteers, the commitment and strength of the team as a whole has contributed to the growth of the organization. We are privileged to have a diverse and dedicated group of volunteers who know that their experience and time is well spent contributing to the larger community. Together, we are the Canadian Tamil Professionals Association. Today's event is about celebrating, understanding, and reflecting on the success and journey of our fellow peers. We hope that you enjoy the conversation today and it inspires you to find ways to overcome any of life's obstacles along your journey. I would like to now pass it on to Krishni Ganesan, the Director of Growth at CTPA, to introduce our sponsors for the year. Thank you.
Thanks, Gobi. Toast to Success would not be possible without the support of our annual sponsors, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to recognize two of our sponsors this year. So up first, we have Ellis Don Corporation. Ellis Don is one of Canada's leading construction and building services companies, completing in excess of $5 billion worth of contracts annually in every market sector and across the globe. Over the last 69 years, Ellis Don has grown from being a general contractor to a multifaceted company that can design, construct, finance, operate, and maintain anything that can be built. Today, we have Jane Chapman, who has recorded a short video sharing a few words on Ellis Don and their partnership with CTPA.
Good morning to all of you at the Canadian Tamil Professionals Association. I'm Jane Chapman. I'm with Ellis Don as a Director of Operations, and I'm also the chair of our employee-led group called Allied, or All-Inclusive at Ellis Don. But congratulations to all of you celebrating today's Toast to Success. We're delighted to join you today. Thank you for inviting me. I apologize I'm not here live. Although it's not obvious, I'm actually in some remote forest today, having escaped the internet and everybody else's demands for a rare treat on a weekend. But I've pre-recorded this today in Mississauga, so hopefully this is sufficient to join you in the celebration. I wish I could be there. I know you'll all be enjoying the day and hopefully raising a glass of champagne or a mimosa to celebrate. Congratulations to all the nominees today, and certainly to the award winners for both emerging professional and established professionals. It's so worthwhile to celebrate both the young up-and-comers and those of us a little more seasoned, been around for a while, and have some great years of experience to share. It's nice you're both being acknowledged today and celebrated. And a quick few words about Ellis Don, if I may, and there's a brief video that will follow that gives you a sense of what being an employee at Ellis Don means. I know that several of you from the CTPA have either worked for Ellis Don or still work for us here, so you know what I'm about to say. And you know that there is a real truth to living our values within Ellis Don in everything we do. Our core values are freedom, trust, complete openness, and mutual respect, to name a few. And within those values is the importance of fostering a diverse workforce and the criticality of ensuring that every single member of our staff feels valued and welcome. Jen Kahn is our head of inclusive diversity. You actually met her last year. She spoke at Toast to Success then, and hopefully she'll return again in the future. And she, along with 3 employee-led groups, including Allied, are dedicated to celebrating the diversity across our almost now 5,000 employees coast to coast. And we are setting a standard in our industry for what inclusion looks like. Jen states very clearly, very succinctly and constantly, inclusion is a right and not a privilege. And we believe that transparency is needed to create trust, and trust is needed to create dialogue. We want to get to a place that not only has a zero tolerance policy for all forms of discrimination, which we do today, but a place where individual differences are valued and celebrated every single day. It's not, Ellis Don is not a place where it's about fitting into our culture. It's a place where it's about embracing all cultures. I can only hope that in the course of your careers, wherever it takes you, you have a chance to work for an organization with similar values as Ellis Don. We salute your commitment to your careers and to your community, and we hope that you have found or you will find an employer like Ellis Don in your career path that will celebrate your excellence, just like you're doing today, and reward your hard work. And most importantly, a place where you feel valued and welcome. Once again, congratulations. Enjoy the morning, enjoy the rest of the day, and thanks so very much for inviting us to join. Good morning.
Thank you, Ellis Don. And up next, we have one of our community sponsors who supported us for Toast to Success 2021, Suresh Law. Suresh is a technology and business lawyer with a background in engineering and entrepreneurship. Over the course of his professional career, Suresh has held executive roles with various organizations, launched 3 ventures, and mentored dozens of startups. He has also worked for leading companies such as Amazon, Microsoft, and BlackBerry. The floor is all yours, Suresh.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suresh Sriskandarajah, and I'm a lawyer at Suresh Law. Thank you very much for having us as a community sponsor this year. And I look forward to supporting CTPA's events in the future as well and all of the initiatives. It's a real honor and privilege. I really appreciate it. Just to give a little bit of background about Suresh Law, we focus primarily on technology and business law, and we work primarily with the startups, especially technology startups. And you're welcome to visit our website, suresh.law, and you will notice that we have a few partners, including Google, DMZ, Spark Center, and Mosaic Lab. And what we do with them is we basically help entrepreneurs succeed by providing the legal services that they need. And we also do a lot of community work in terms of providing workshops to help entrepreneurs succeed. Thank you once again for having us as part of this event, and we look forward to supporting in the future years to come.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you to both of our sponsors and for your continued support. Moving on to our main event for this afternoon that we have all been waiting for, I would like to start off by giving a very brief introduction on our moderator for today. Rajanti Manivannan has over 15 years of experience in the private and nonprofit sectors. She is currently the Director of Strategy at the Future Skills Center, which is a federally funded initiative dedicated to helping Canadians gain the skills they need to thrive in a changing labor market. Prior to FSC, Rajanti has held leadership roles at multiple nonprofits, including the Rumi Initiative, which aims to provide access to free digital education for underserved communities, COPA, which provides mini solar home systems in rural areas of Kenya and Uganda, as well as NORSAC, a local NGO focused on women's rights and governance. She holds a professional accounting designation and a BA in economics from the University of Waterloo. We're very excited to have her moderate today's conversation with Maya. Attendees will also get the opportunity to ask questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So please type your questions there and we will address them at the Q&A session. Rajanti, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, Nishani, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to our keynote speaker, who I think is joining us from the West Coast. Before we jump into our conversation with Maya, let me just give you guys a brief introduction for her impressive bio, and then we'll jump into our conversation. So Dr. Maya Shankar is a cognitive scientist who served as a senior advisor in the Obama White House, where she founded and served as chair of the White House Behavioral Science team. She also served as the first behavioral science advisor to the United Nations under Ban Ki-moon, and was a core member of Pete Buttigieg's debate prep during his presidential run. Maya has a postdoctoral fellowship in cognitive neuroscience at Stanford, a Ph.D. from Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship. She also has a BA from Yale. Maya is currently the Senior Director of Behavioral Economics at Google and the host of A Slight Change of Plans, a podcast about how we navigate change, produced by Jacob Weiss and Malcolm Gladwell's audio company, Pushkin Industries. Welcome, Maya. All
Hi,
right.
everyone.
So right off the bat, very, very impressive bio. I think all of us just heard so many names that we're very impressed with. Your focus, the ones that I focused on in your intro, was around behavioral science. But before we jump into that, I'd love to sort of kick off with, that's not really where your passion sort of first started. Do you mind sharing a little bit about where your passion began and how those plans changed?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, it's wonderful to be here. It's also wonderful to be at an event where my last name is pronounced Shankar reliably and not Shankar or Shankar. So I really appreciate that. And it's just wonderful to be at an event with a bunch of familiars. So this is wonderful. So when I was 6 years old, my mom went up to her attic and brought down my grandmother's violin that she had brought with her all the way from India when she immigrated here in the 70s. My grandmother had played Eastern classical violin, so in Carnatic style. And my mom showed it to me, and she just expected me to kind of, as a kid, be delighted by seeing something of my grandmother's, but I really took to the instrument and became very passionate about it. And so when I was 9 years old, I started studying at the Juilliard School of Music in New York and was just kind of on the speed train to wanting to become a professional violinist. And then unfortunately, a hand injury derailed my passion and love when I was 15, and I was forced to pivot and find something new.
Wow. So we could add Juilliard to the list of impressive institutions as well. I'm curious, like, as we think about our CTPA members and the people who are listening here today, either whether you're a new grad or you're in the middle of a mid-career transition, career paths are very difficult to navigate. And so how did you find, so from the violin, how did you find behavioral science? And sort of very tactfully, if you could explain to us, like, what steps did you take and how did you land there?
Yeah, career change is very overwhelming. I fully empathize with those who are feeling overwhelmed by what comes next. And as you can tell from my bio, I definitely did not have a linear path. There were many, many twists and turns. And in many ways, my anxieties about change were the inspiration for this podcast that I've created, A Slight Change of Plans, because it's all about how people have navigated profound changes in their lives and made it out the other side with the hope that we can learn something valuable through their experiences. In my own case, I was 15, had this hand injury, was absolutely resolute about my desire to keep playing in spite of so much pain and discomfort as any impatient teenager would. But finally, doctors told me I had to stop playing entirely. And, there's this principle in cognitive science called identity foreclosure, and it refers to the idea that as humans, we can become very fixed in our sense of self, especially in adolescence. And I absolutely fell prey to that. I felt like violin was such a formative part of my childhood. It was such a formative part of who I felt I was and such a core part of my identity that when I lost it, I didn't know how to define myself outside that space. And what I tried to do from a tactics perspective is keep as open mind as I possibly could and read as much as I could, have as many conversations as I could with people who were in other spaces. And fortunately for me, I stumbled upon a book about language perception and the fact that our minds are engaging in so much complex cognitive work every time we produce or comprehend language. And I remember reading this book and feeling completely in awe of the human mind. I'd always taken for granted my abilities to comprehend or speak language. And all of a sudden the curtain was getting pulled back for me. And I just remember marveling at this organ that we all have. And that's what ended up propelling me to study cognitive science for the next few decades.
And how old were you when you read that book? Were you already an undergrad or?
Yeah, it was the summer. No, it was the summer before college. I was hoping to be a history major because it felt like that was the only thing you didn't need a lot of credentials for or qualifications for. So I was like, okay, I'll try to, study history. And then this was when I was I was like 16 or maybe 17 at this point, I can't remember. And that summer I was supposed to be touring in China with my musical peers. And instead I was helping my parents clean out their basement, as any dutiful daughter does. And so I ended up stumbling upon this book and I opened it. And fortunately for me, my undergrad institution had a cognitive science program. So I was able to study the mind from all of these different disciplines, and it really fueled my new passion.
Great. And so you read this book, you're pre-college, as we say, university, you go to Yale, you graduate with, I guess, some sort of focus in cognitive science. What was your first gig out of university?
Yeah, so I was on the academic train for some time. So I did as you mentioned, I did my PhD. I also did my postdoc in cognitive neuroscience. And I still remember that I was in the basement of this fMRI laboratory. So the laboratory I was in, we were scanning people's brains and deducing things about their behaviors and decision-making. And it was like the 5th hour of being in this windowless basement. And this guy came in, and within moments, I'm looking at images of his brain. And I remember thinking, I feel like the order of operations is off here. Like, given my personality and how social I feel, it just didn't feel right for me to be penetrating this guy's brain and looking at all these images of his brain without knowing, like, what's his favorite ice cream flavor? Does he have kids? What are his passions, right? And so I knew that I wanted to do something a little bit more social, a little bit more team oriented. But as many people listening might experience, you also feel sunk costs, right? Because at this moment I was like, oh my gosh, I've just spent 10 years of my life going down the academic path. What do I do now? So I called up my undergraduate advisor, and she told me about this incredible work that was happening in the US government at the time. And basically, the US government offers this lunch program for low-income kids to help them thrive at school. So it offers free or reduced price lunches. And tragically, despite the fact this program was being offered, millions of kids were still going hungry every single day at school. And the reason for that had 2 behavioral causes. So one was the form was extremely burdensome. So imagine you're a single mom trying to make ends meet, and the government's asking you to fill out this incredibly complex form that requires referencing multiple tax documents, going to the post office at this very particular point in time to make sure the application lands in this fixed window. And if you make a mistake, there's a big penalty, things like that. So they weren't structuring incentives in a way that would motivate people to apply for the program. And then secondly, there was this stigma associated with signing up your kids for a public benefits program. So I remember when I was at the White House, I ended up talking with some principals, and one of the principals in Florida said, these parents work really hard for a living and they don't want their kids to rely on the government for support. And so the government ended up utilizing an insight from my field, from behavioral science, about the power of defaults. And it changed the program from an opt-in program to an opt-out program. So it used existing data on these kids to automatically enroll them in the program. And now parents only had to take an affirmative step if they actively wanted to unenroll their kids from the program. And as a result of the change, 12.5 million more kids were now eating lunch at school every day. And I remember being so moved by this example and thinking, oh, this is the sort of thing that I want to do. But there was no job at the White House that I could apply for. So I ended up sending a cold email to a former Obama advisor, saying, hey, I'm Maya, postdoc, no public policy experience, published nothing of significance, but I'm very passionate about this space. Do you think you could connect me with some folks in, state, local government? And he went a step farther and introduced me to President Obama's science advisor. And within a few days, I was interviewing and pitching them on the idea of creating a behavioral scientist position. And within a few months, I had moved to DC and was starting the gig. So it was a profoundly exciting period of time. And also, I got very lucky I had no connections into the policy world. So the stars really had to have aligned.
Yeah. So for people who are listening, I mean, the fact that you wrote a quote, my next question was going to be, how did you get into the White House, right? You're doing I'm sure the fact that you're doing your postdoc at Stanford and that you've done your PhD at Oxford, all of that helped. But if you didn't send that cold email out, you wouldn't have gotten the call back in. So how many, was this the first thing that you tried and then just luck sort of worked itself out? Or did you explore multiple different avenues and this was one of 5 or 6?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at other jobs and, I was like, maybe I should be a general management consultant because I had no idea how to leverage my very specific skill set. Like, what does a postdoc in cognitive neuroscience do if they don't become an academic? So I definitely had I was going to say a shit ton. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this thing. I had a ton of failures and a ton of rejections. I remember the first email I sent out about a job, they wrote back very quickly saying that they had no interest. but at the same time, like, I have a very fearless personality. I think I've kind of desensitized myself over the years to rejection. And I've also learned that very rarely will opportunities just present themselves on a silver platter. And this is actually relevant to the way that I even got into Juilliard in the first place. And it's worth sharing that my mom in many ways instilled this fearlessness in me. So, you know, my dad is a theoretical physicist. He's a professor. My mom helps immigrants get green cards to study in this country. Neither of them had any exposure to the Western classical music world, and they had no idea how to help their daughter's big dreams come true. You know, I'm one of 4 kids. We all played music, but they didn't expect that I was going to become so serious about it. So when I started saying, oh, you know, as like a 8-year-old, like, Mom, do you think Juilliard's an option? And she was trying to, you know, find even a local teacher to teach me. She was struggling to figure out, you know, how to stitch these things together. And so one weekend we were in New York. I happened to have my violin with me, and my mom and I passed by the Juilliard school, and she said, Maya, why don't we just go in? Like, what do you mean just go in? We don't have an invite. No, what does that even look like? Like, you're nuts, no way. She said, let's just do it. Let's just go in and see what happens. You know, worst case scenario, we're asked to leave. So we walk into the building unannounced, and my mom starts up a conversation with a woman in the elevator and her daughter. And she finds out that she's about to take a lesson with this violin teacher who's very lauded in the space, and says, you know, when you're done with your lesson, would you mind if my daughter just meets with your teacher? Maybe just like a, you know, gets a chance to say hello. And they were very generous and gracious. That's one thing I've learned. People are so generous and kind and spirited in that way. And so I got introduced to this teacher, and I auditioned for him on the spot. And he accepted me into a summer program. It was basically a boot camp for my Juilliard audition in the fall. And there's no way in heck I would ever have had the skills to get into Juilliard that fall had it not been for the boot camp. And there's no way I would have gotten accepted to the boot camp had my mom not, you know, did the Juilliard cold call method. And so I learned very early that when the door isn't open, sometimes you physically have to open the door. And I've been using that principle ever since, right? It was used to help facilitate these violin connections. As I mentioned to you, I, you know, called up everyone I knew when I was looking for this job, and eventually the right connections landed. When I was interested in helping Mayor Pete on his presidential campaign, I sent him a cold email. Like, I just kind of, but I think it's really important for folks on this call to hear the denominator as well, like to know that not everything was a success, right? I've had more rejections and failures than I can even count on than I can even count. But the important thing is you try enough times that there's at least a few successes.
That's right. I'm so glad that you said that, because that was part of what I was, you know, even trying to get at with the follow-up, which is what is the denominator? Because for people who are particularly feeling that people aren't generous and kind because they tried 2 or 3 times, and it really does take a toll on your self-esteem and confidence, right? And you talked about being fearless, and I think that really corresponds with sort of confidence and persistence. How that seems like it was instilled through your mom, which again, really great example to lead by. Are there other moments, and I imagine in the White House, which I'm very curious about how you built a team from a cold call. So can you tell us a little bit about those experiences of building a team within the White House when you didn't have resources allocated from the get-go? It seems like you sort of created the team through more influence without necessarily having authority. So people who are in their careers right now, who are trying to grow in their career or find a niche, or they find a gap within their organization and they want to fill it, what tactics did you use to do that? If I'm putting words in your mouth, I don't know if that's how it was.
No, I'd love to hear. You're completely right. I mean, I joined the White House in this new position, and I made it my goal to build a team, but I didn't have a budget and I didn't have a mandate, and it very much felt like a startup in my parents' basement kind of vibe. I had no ability to point to President Obama or leadership and say to government agencies, hey, we have this directive from above, partner with me and work on these pilots that involve behavioral science. Instead, I had to inspire a lot of organic interest in people. I had to help them see how the tools I was bringing to bear, right, the insights from my field, if applied to public policy and programs, could actually assist them. So to give you a concrete example, I remember I was trying to work with the Department of Veterans Affairs. They offer this program to vets when they're transitioning from military life to civilian life. And that can be a transition that's fraught with lots of anxiety and stress, as you can imagine, you know, veterans facing PTSD, other types of mental health struggles. transitioning back into the workforce, et cetera. And veterans weren't taking advantage of this. And we ended up using an insight from our field that led us to change just one word in a marketing message about the program. Instead of telling vets that they were eligible for the program, we simply reminded them that they had earned it through their years of service. Wow. And that one word change led to a 9% increase in access to the program. And it leveraged an insight called the Endowment Effect, which says we value things more when we've earned them or own them. And it took my teammates and I maybe 14 months to get this pilot up and running. And this is a simple A/B test. But we had to be absolutely persistent. I mean, oh my gosh, talk about failures. Like the number of times I was told no to wanting to build the team, the number of times that I would get a pilot almost over the finish line and it would have taken months and months and months to get up and running. And then for whatever reason, the pilot gets squashed. The number of times that I was, told like, oh, you're so young and enthusiastic and, lots of like age discrimination, I feel. And I'm sure the fact that I was a woman wasn't helping me. And so I definitely faced a ton of barriers on that front of people saying, it's cute that you have these big goals, but like, please, that sort of vibe. And so it just took everything within me to try to stay the course and feel like I could prove them wrong, essentially. And again, my general philosophy, it's not like I'm not a sensitive person who doesn't feel rejection. It's just that if you put enough eggs in enough baskets, inevitably something will work that will help you build your confidence. And so my approach in government was to knock on every single door I could, such that if I got 50 rejections, maybe there were 2 that actually led to pilot projects that could help me build the case for this.
Wow. So the theme of your story just seems to be reiterating itself over and over again. Keep trying, keep persisting, and don't sort of take failure personally, because I'm noticing a real, like, you're not taking it on as your failure, but okay, that this person, it's almost like the person that you approached is the wrong person. Let me try another tactic, as opposed to taking it personally, which I think is hard for us sometimes to reconcile, but is a good thing for us to keep in mind.
Yeah. And again, like, I take things personally just like everyone else. I don't want to glamorize this at all. And sometimes it is you. Like, I've asked to do things I'm not qualified for, and it makes sense that I've been rejected, but I tried anyway. I think it's more just assigning a lightness to the whole process, right? Like trying to say, none of it matters too much. Don't take any of it too seriously. And I think kind of having a sense of humor about it can be very assistive in helping people overcome that barrier to entry and helping them overcome any anxiety or nerves they have about taking that first step, or, trying to send that cold email. But again, the number of emails I've sent that have never been responded to because what I was asking for was either too ambitious, out of my wheelhouse, whatever, is very, very high.
That's great. So actually my question, this is even a personal one for myself. And also I've heard a few of my friends and colleagues talk about this when pressure mounts really high. So I'm sure there was a lot of pressure being in the White House, and even doing your PhD, and I imagine the roles that you've taken since. So what are some of your, it sounds like taking it lightly, putting things in perspective, a bit of humor helps. Are there other sort of tactics that you use on a day-to-day basis that keeps your anxiety levels low, or that you're able to manage that day-to-day pressure that you're putting on yourself and maybe others?
I think it's surrounding yourself with excellent people. So when it came to hiring for my White House team, which only eventually I was able to do, because like I said, I didn't have any resources or budget initially, I was so ruthless about that hiring process. Like, people had to pass the no asshole test in spades in order to make it onto the team. Like and even now, in my role at Google, I probably spend an unconscionable amount of time on the recruiting process and hiring the right folks, because I think if you can keep yourself surrounded by people who are really, focused on the mission, are team oriented, where you can create an equilibrium where when you're feeling down, they can lift you up, and vice versa. That has been absolutely crucial to helping me maintain my motivation when things feel lower. And, it's interesting. Like, I think the people that I've come to work with have also just become such close friends over time, right? Like, the line between friendship and work has blurred. And for example, 3 of the folks that I worked with, that I built the White House team with, they all moved their families over to the West Coast, and we now all work together again. in my job at Google. They were at my weddings. Like it feels like family when you're in the trenches with really good people. And I've always felt like if you can bring humanity to the work and try and build friendships, you know, that's always been something that I valued. And everyone has a different philosophy, right, about how much of themselves they bring to work, and absolutely no judgment there. But for me personally, I have always felt like bringing my full self to work, and building friendships outside of work has helped buoy me in frustrating moments.
That's great. And I can definitely relate to that, but the opposite side of that coin sometimes is, does that make it harder then for you to have difficult conversations with those people that you said? Yeah. How do you navigate that?
In some ways, it makes it easier for me to have harder conversations because there's such a strong element of trust in our relationship that it doesn't feel as personal when I give critical feedback. Because they know how much I deeply trust them and admire them and respect them, and along all sorts of dimensions. So I've actually found it kind of ironically, because I would have had the same instincts as you until I went through the experience myself, that it can actually be easier.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's true. That trust piece is a huge, so everyone knows that where you're coming from is a good place, right?
Definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about identity. So you referenced being, a young woman, a young Tamil woman, when you're trying to build a team, especially in the White House and all of the roles that you've done. In your experience, like how does that come into play in your professional work and in your personal life? Is it something that you carry with you, or do you try to distance yourself from that? Like how do you navigate that identity of being a young Tamil woman? And I know there are other words that you would use to probably describe your identity. So I wonder sort of how do you I guess reconcile all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised in a home where my parents were fiercely proud to be Tamilian, and we grew up in a very Caucasian town, very, very, very few families of color, period. I think there were probably 6 kids in our entire school district at the time that had melanin in their skin, and 3 of them were my siblings. And so it was definitely hard for me to embrace being Indian as a kid, because of course, like any kid, you want to assimilate, you want to feel like you're you're part of the group. My mom remembers coming into the bathroom and, I have like textured hair and it's fairly thick. And I was like standing in front of the sink, pouring water on it, holding it, hoping that I could get rid of my curls and just have straight hair like, Jacqueline at school did. So I fell prey to all those things. But as I've grown up, I feel fiercely proud of the fact that I am Tamilian. I feel fiercely proud of the fact that I'm a woman, and I carry that banner very, very proudly. And I hope it can be an inspiration for other Tamilian people and other Tamilian women in particular. I certainly, have lots of role models that I've looked up to, and it's wonderful to see more and more sprout up, like, Indra Nooyi leading that banner. She's a close family friend of ours. And Kamala Harris, kind of a big deal.
What a great family friend to have. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, she was an MBA student in New Haven, and my mom and dad both work on the university campus at Yale. And so my mom noticed that there was this Indian woman, and she said, "Oh, come home for a home cooked meal. Like I'll cook you rasam sadam and stuff." And so Indra came over, and obviously my parents had no idea one day she would be the CEO of Pepsi, but she has been a lifelong friend and an incredible inspiration for me. And so I feel grateful to have the kind of confidence that I have around my ethnicity and my background, because I think people can sense that, right? And it's not enough to just occupy a role with a certain identity. You have to be proud. I think in order for it to have maximum impact on others and to inspire others fully. So one fun job, just to tell you, like out of college, I actually worked for Sesame Street, and I love Sesame Street, by the way, but it's an international show. A lot of people don't appreciate this. And there's an Indian version of the show called Gully Gully Simpson. And Chunky at the time was the main character on the show. And she's always wearing a backpack to show her dedication to going to school every single day and being, as educated as possible. And my summer internship involved trying to domesticate the content of the Indian version of the show, so that families growing up in this country could get exposure to Indian traditions and what that show was like. Because I felt like if I'd grown up with an Indian version of Sesame Street in the home, I might have felt more willing to accept. And it's in Hindi. I would have loved a Tamil version, but that didn't exist. So yeah, that was definitely a very exciting project, because it was me kind of looking back in my past and thinking, oh, I wish I had had a resource like that. I wish I had had Indian traditions on my TV screen growing up in the way that, the American culture was being represented on my TV screen.
Yeah, and that's definitely changed even now with, shows like Never Have I Ever, or just the representation has improved in a way that I hope it continues to. So I'm conscious that I have like about 3 to 4 more minutes before I want to move to audience Q&A, but I do have, actually I have a lot more questions, but I guess we're going to have to skip them all and get to the last one, which is, that's okay. The theme of resilience is actually the theme of today's toast to success. And we've talked about this, and I know that in your academic life as a behavioral scientist, like you probably understand the behaviors necessary for resilience, or that you see in resilience. And then from your podcast, which I want to just do a 2-second shout out to, because I think it's really great. And you've had so many amazing guests, from like Hillary Clinton, Tiffany Haddish, like Adam Grant, a personal favorite, and then sort of quote unquote regular people, right? Who are sort of talking through how their life has changed. And what are some commonalities that you're seeing, either from like your lived experience from going through the podcast and hearing people's stories, and then sort of the academic way of thinking about resilience? Is there some themes that you're seeing about people who are best placed to overcome, shocks and stresses that we face in life?
Yeah, I think one is the people who have seen their identities as more malleable tend to thrive in the face of change. So as I mentioned to you, we fall prey to identity foreclosure, and it can lead us to have this fixed mindset. But those who have been willing to see their identities as something that is dynamic and malleable, can change over time, that's definitely been something I've noticed. In my own life, I found that trying to attach my identity not to specific pursuits, but instead the traits of those pursuits that I really enjoy has been helpful. So when I look back at my violin life, I think it's easy for me to have thought as a kid, like, oh, the reason I love the violin is I love the way it feels and I love the way it sounds, and I love performing. But actually, I think the real motivation for me in playing the violin was it allowed me to forge this incredible emotional connection with people almost instantly, right? Like I would, as a young kid, be able to go on stage. There's tons of people in the audience. We're all strangers to one another, but within a moment, I'm able to make them feel something they haven't felt. And we feel this close emotional bond. And what that taught me is, oh, actually, the thing that I really love is human connection. And I love studying humans, and I love understanding what makes humans tick. And that's been a through line in my life, right? I study cognitive science, and with my podcast, I had the ability to go into a room and say, hey, Hillary Clinton, like apropos of nothing, what was the hardest moment of your life? What was your biggest pain point? What's the thing you struggled with the most? And that's a wonderful honor to be able to feed my passion for humans and my curiosity for humans through these various pursuits. And so in many ways, yeah, there's a lot of, like you said, there's such a diverse set of stories on a slight change of plans. I hope folks who are joining this event will take a listen to the show, because I think every episode, there's a different insight you'll glean about change in your life. And every person will take something different from every episode. And that's kind of what I love about it, which is, there's no answers in a textbook about how to navigate big change, but when we hear people's stories, we can mine them for really valuable insights that align with our own lives and the types of people that we are.
What a great note. I was gonna underline something that you just said, but actually you ended up summing it up really well. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And quickly just look at the Q&A box to see if other people have questions for you. So here's one. Can you describe a time when you felt your sense of resilience decreasing, and how were you able to get it back and keep going?
Oh my gosh, last year was terrible for everyone. It was absolutely overwhelming and tragic from a racial justice point of view. Things are really hard, and I had some personal losses in my life, and I was feeling just totally overwhelmed by change. I mean, the way that I was able to get it back was honestly, I threw myself into this podcast. In many ways, it was like a grief project, right? Like I didn't know answers to questions that I had in my mind. And I felt confused and lost. And I remember thinking, I put my behavioral science hat on, and I remember thinking, while the specifics of what 2020 threw our way might be unique, our human ability to navigate change is not unique. We've obviously done this rodeo before. Like, our minds are built for change in a lot of ways. Yeah. And so maybe it is possible to learn from others about ways in which they've navigated change that I can then use in my own life. And so in many ways, it was my own desire for answers and personal discovery, and it was coming from a place of vulnerability that I started this show in the first place. But generally speaking, when I need to get it back, I just rely on the people in my life, and being as open as I possibly can about what I'm going through, and often finding that people are going through the same thing, and there's a lot of commiseration that can happen. Sabrina says, Sabrina's also asking, what's your favorite thing to do to unwind? Well, I love The Bachelor, so I love crappy reality TV. So I watch The Bachelor. I need exercise in my day-to-day life. So our big investment last year, because of coronavirus, was we bought an elliptical. And so, because it was so expensive, I do feel motivated to actually use it as often as possible. But I love I love being active. So exercising, going on long walks, putting in a podcast, listening to an audiobook. And then I think probably the other thing that we've been able to do less of, but probably my ultimate favorite thing, is just having dinner with friends. I love food a lot, and I love people a lot. So when I marry those two things together, that's perfection for me.
Yeah, you're speaking my language with everything you said. Endorphins are key to get through things, that's for sure.
I discovered this incredible restaurant with amazing South Indian food. It parallels, it like kind of rivals my mom's food, which is the highest compliment I can pay to a restaurant. So my Chinese husband and I have been ODing on the South Indian restaurant nearby. He's a huge fan. His favorite, he loves, I wanted to share just really quickly, Jimmy's favorite Indian food. So he's a huge fan of avial.
Avial, really?
Yeah. Huge fan of avial. And then he also loves budgies of any kind. So those are his two go-tos.
Love it. That's excellent.
I like his sophisticated Indian palate.
I was going to ask what the restaurant was, but most of us are here in Canada, so probably unlikely. But
yeah, sorry, but you come to the Bay Area, it's called Bay Biryani. So
Bay Biryani, good to know. I have two more questions here, and we got 6 minutes left. Actually, I have a couple more questions, so I'm just going to shoot through them as fast as we can. Samantha, I think, said she'd love to hear how you exist and find success in the third culture space of having South Asian roots, but living in the West, which I think you talked a little bit about, but if there's anything else to expand on.
Yeah, I think I hit on that a bit. Like I said, it took me a while to really lean into the fact that I'm Indian. Like growing up, my last name was Shankar in my head too, right? And it's only been in the last, decade or so that I just insist on people pronouncing my last name correctly. It's like, this is not that hard to do. I think as like kids of immigrant parents or as immigrants ourselves, we feel burdened by something as simple as our names. And it's like, people can say these sounds, right? Like people can say them in other parts of the world. Surely you can just say Shankar. And so I feel like I've kind of insisted on that. And like I said, confidence begets confidence. So when I start, showcasing that part of my culture and what matters to me, then I start seeing that I feel more confident about other parts of my culture and, aspects of the way that I was raised and the way that my parents raised me and the values that are in Indian culture. And, it's taken a while, but I also do think we are at a rare moment in time where we are, for the first time as a collective mass in the US, appreciating diversity, calling it out for all the joys and beauties that it is. And I feel grateful to live during this moment in time because, when I think back to my parents who immigrated here, back in the 70s, it was, a much more hostile environment, towards diversity. And I do feel like there's some sort of Renaissance movement that's happening right now.
I agree completely. Any tips and recommendations on how you make the right hires? Actually, this is a great question. I know we only have 4 minutes, but I'm sure a lot of us, because this is, I was intrigued when you said this too. What, is there some sort of secret sauce? What's the process look like for you?
Yeah, look, I wish so much that I could give like a one size fits all recommendation. I think the things that have mattered for me is like really understanding what the day-to-day aspects of the role look like, and dissociating like interview performance from ability to actually get that job done. You might see a disconnect often. Like some people are extremely charming and well-spoken in interviews, but then when it comes to their ability to actually get the job done, there's some sort of disconnect. So I've introduced like tests in advance, like writing samples or types of exams that like mirror what it would actually be like to work on the team to see whether they rise to the occasion. And then absolutely, I mean, I focus so much on kindness because, you know, one bad apple can ruin a team. So I do a lot of digging on that in advance to try to figure out if they're just a nice person. But, you know, that's hard to glean as well.
It is, but it makes or breaks a team, that's for sure. So we talked a bit about passion with your violin and just other work as well. What are some tips to help people sort of turn their passions into a career? I guess your podcast is an example of that. And I guess for me, even as a follow-up, do you think passion is necessary for a career? That's more my own personal question as well.
Yeah, and I think my generation's spoiled in believing that passion, I mean, if you talk to like my husband's parents who grew up in China, you talk to my parents, like passion was not necessarily always considered like a necessary part of the equation. I think we have the luxury of wanting passion in our careers. But I do think that, I mean, the one lesson I think I hinted at this before was like, in my life, the jobs that I've always wanted didn't exist yet. And I had to make them. That's how you can turn a passion into a career, right? So the White House job if the Sesame Street job didn't exist, I just like begged this vice president at Sesame Street to like give me this position over the summer. It didn't exist, right? And then the White House job didn't exist. The Pete Buttigieg debate preparation core member team thing didn't exist. Google created the role for me because of conversations I was having with them about the importance of behavioral science. And then this podcast didn't exist until I tried to make it so. So if you do have that entrepreneurial spirit in you, leverage that to make things happen that don't exist. That would be the advice I would give. It's very hard to do. I don't want to simplify it. It's extremely hard to build something from the ground up and make it so. But I've often found that like the things I really wanted to be doing in life that really channeled my passions just didn't exist.
Yeah. And
I thought of one more thing I do to relax, which is
please.
Right now I'm drinking my like chai. Yeah. So this is a sacred cup that I have every morning, and it has like freshly cut ginger and cardamom, and I do it the whole style. And I remember growing up, my mom would always like have her tea time, and she'd be like, please, like, it's just mom of four, right? Please don't bother me during my tea time. Like, it so matters to me. And I'm like, what's the big deal? And now I'm exactly that way. Like my husband comes in and tries to bother me when I'm having my sacred cup of chai, and I freak out. So that's another thing that I value a lot.
That's great. Creating rituals. So I know
rituals. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I know that you have a hard stop, but this has been so wonderful. And thank you very much for sharing all your wisdom.
Absolutely.
What I've noticed is you have a sort of step approach, right? You take one big, you take one big step, and then the next step sort of leads you to the next, right? The not mayoral campaign, it was the presidential campaign, but Mayor Pete and all of that. So it was one step after another. So hopefully people have taken a lot away, and we really appreciate your time. I'm going to pass it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you very much, Maya. And I'm going to pass it on now. I think I'm supposed to pass it to Janisha. Is it on to you?
Yes. Oh, there we go. Okay, I would thank both Maya and Rajenti for such an engaging conversation. I truly hope you all took as much away from that conversation as I did. We know how busy schedules are generally, and especially within the circumstances of today, I just want to reiterate our thanks to you both for your time and energy. Moving on to the next piece of our event tonight, our Toast to Success Awards. In the last few years, CTPA has run a process by which we award and honor 2 remarkable professionals who have demonstrated strong growth and commitment to the community. We have 2 awards being presented tonight, the Emerging and Established Awards of Professional Excellence. Our first award presented tonight will be the Emerging Professional Award. The Emerging Professional Award is given to an individual who has made a significant impact in their field and had outsized exposure in their area of expertise in the early stages of their careers. I'm pleased to present the winner for the 2021 Emerging Professional Award by CTPA, Samantha Krishnapillai. A little bit about Samantha. Samantha is a creative problem solver who actively challenges the status quo. While completing a master's degree in health information science at Western University, she founded the On Canada Project, a grassroots initiative that invites millions of young Canadians to be active participants in the public discourse around the future of our country and world. Samantha strives to create critical and compassionate conversations, challenging herself and the people around her to show up fully and unapologetically as their full selves. She was also named one of Best Health Magazine's Woman of the Year, 2020 Health Hero, and as a trailblazer in the Tamil Canadian Centre for Civic Action's 2021 Top 30 Under 30 list. Samantha will now be joining us to say a few words. Samantha, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Thank you so much to the Canadian Tamil Professionals Association. I'm honored, humbled, grateful to win this. This award is a wonderful recognition after a really weird decade of being an adult. I've had a non-linear career path here, which I'm really sorry to my alma and appa about. And my journey has included taking time to heal and focus on my mental health, amongst other things. So this past year and all the successes of it have been kind of like a whirlwind. When I started the On Canada project in June of 2020, I did it because I believed that the information about how to stay safe during this pandemic was targeted towards folks of privilege. Most Canadians, especially BIPOC folk, aren't privileged enough to work from home, isolate safely, or do that type of stuff. The project would eventually expand our scope from just COVID to bringing a conversational, compassionate tone to information that would invite BIPOC folk into having critical conversations about the future of our country. Our project has grown from 0 followers to over 120,000. We've been featured on major news outlets like CBC, CP24, and CTV, as well as less major but arguably more cooler outlets like 6Buzz TV. We've had a lot of success, but what I'm most proud of is the way we work internally. I knew I wanted to create a culture that allows people to show up fully without having to code switch, especially since half of our 130 volunteers are BIPOC, millennials, and Gen Z. As a result, our team feels nurtured, safe, and valued, and that, in my opinion, is our greatest achievement. This is particularly important to me because I've been unpacking my internalized racism for the last 5 years. I didn't know it growing up, but I had really centered whiteness in myself. I grew up thinking and being told I wasn't Tamil enough. People would tell me this all the time, and I think eventually I sort of believed it. What my work has taught me over the past 5 years is that regardless of what other people think, I am Tamil. It's not a matter of if I'm not enough or too much, I just am. So winning this award means a lot more than being celebrated for the work you've seen, but also the work I've been doing internally, both on the team and in myself. Now, as the project grows into its full self, which is part consultancy and part media content, I'm excited to keep bringing my full self to conversations, to disrupt the status quo and champion solutions that de-center whiteness and does things a little differently. My biggest learning this year is to trust that ancestral intuition in my gut, while also being open to opportunity and growth. Thank you so much for this award.
Thank you, Samantha, for your words, and congratulations again for all your achievements. The second award being presented tonight will be the Established Professional Award, which recognizes candidates with over 15 years of professional experience who have shown a strong record of career growth in their given industry. The winner of this award has demonstrated this and so much more. It is my pleasure to present the winner for the 2021 Established Professional Award by CTPA, Sugan Manavarajan. A little bit about Sugan. Sugan Manavarajan is a purpose-driven professional with a diverse background progressively spanning across various sectors, functions, and regions across Canada. From Bay Street to the Arctic to our nation's capital, For over the past 15 years, Sugan had been providing strategic advice and tactical support to senior management teams, executives, and elected officials. Currently, as a National Relationships Manager for the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, Sugan is actively working to co-create national capacity building efforts in our housing ecosystem through cross-sector collaboration and partnerships. Most recently, Sugan was instrumental in negotiating and securing a $22 billion in private sector commitments towards socially responsible investments in affordable housing. Sugan will now be joining us as well to say a few words. Sugan, the floor is yours.
Let's see if my video is working here. Hello, everyone. Today I'm in Peel Region and would like to acknowledge that this land is a part of treaty land and the territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit. As seeds from our motherland, we are now contributing to Canada's canopy. We should not take this lightly, as the actions we do today are setting the foundations for our future generations. Never forget that we are resilient, we are adaptable, and we are capable of summoning excellence from ourselves. I'm honored today to be accepting the Ctpa Established Professional Award. This is very meaningful to me, and I'm very grateful for the recognition as there are so many talented professionals in our community. Winning this award would not have been possible without the inspiration and investments of all those that contributed to my journey. With that said, I will continue to passionately pursue my purpose-driven work in impacting our collective quality of life. Thank you again. I appreciate the award.
Thank you to both Samantha and Sugan for your time today. On behalf of CTPA, I would like to congratulate you again on your professional success. As we are nearing the end of the event, this year we have a mindfulness activity powered by ADIA Canada. ADIA seeks to empower members of the Tamil community who have been impacted by mental health. They strive to educate, raise awareness, and promote self-worth and destigmatize mental illness within the community. On behalf of ADIA today, we have Divya Sribhaskaran, the founder of Anma Yoga and currently working as a senior program analyst with the Ministry of Health. By bridging her passion for health promotion and yoga, she began to offer yoga classes during the pandemic. Anma Yoga thrives to create a safe and inclusive space for everyone to connect with themselves and to connect with like-minded individuals within the community. Classes are offered in both Tamil and English to all ages, with the youngest yogini being 3 and the oldest yogi being in their 70s. Anma Yoga continues to be an ongoing partner with the ADIA to promote health and well-being in the Tamil community. I would like to invite Divya to take it away from here.
Thank you, Ahira, for that introduction. I hope everyone's excited for this mindfulness series. So for today, we'll be using our chair. We'll start off with some stretches and then we'll go into a breathing practice. So if everyone can get onto their chair nice and comfy, so scooching back, sitting up nice and tall, rolling your shoulder blades back and down, and pressing your shoulders back to open your collarbones. We'll close our eyes here and take a few deep breaths, breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. We'll be doing this for 3 to 5 breaths just to take the time to arrive, to come into this present moment, to let go of what happened earlier in our day and whatever we're expecting next. So just get comfortable and take some nice breaths. We'll start with some stretches that you can do sitting on your chair. We realize that this might be beneficial for people who are working from home or are in school who spend a lot of time sitting on their chairs. So starting with our neck, we'll bring our right hand to the left side of our head. We'll inhale to sit up tall. And as we exhale, we'll drop our head towards the right, bringing our left shoulder down. Taking deep breaths here. Breathing into that left side of your neck. Inhale to bring your head back to center, and then we'll switch hands, bringing our left hand to the right side, inhaling to sit up tall, and then as you exhale, dropping your head towards the left, right shoulder comes down, breathing into the right side of your neck here. Inhale, bring your head back to center. From here, we'll interlace our hands, bring our hands behind our heads. Inhale to sit up nice and tall. And then as you exhale, bring your elbows in, dropping your chin to your chest, adjusting the pressure on your head here to really get that nice stretch at the back of your neck. Staying connected with that breath that we connected to in the beginning. Inhale to bring the head back. Exhaling to release the hands down. We'll bring our attention to our wrists. So we spend a lot of time typing, so it's good to give that attention to the wrists. So we'll send our right hand forwards, palms face forwards. Take your left 4 fingers and gently pull the right 4 fingers back. Make sure you're rolling your shoulders back and down and sitting up tall. Exhale, release. Take your left thumb and gently pull your right thumb back. Exhale to release. We'll make wrist circles going one way, and then we'll go the other way. Releasing the right hand, we'll bring our attention to the left hand. Palm goes forwards. This time, right 4 fingers, pull our left 4 fingers back. Really paying attention to your shoulders here. We automatically tend to hunch, so roll those shoulders back and down. Exhale, release. Take your right thumb and gently pull your left thumb back. Exhaling to release, wrist circle going one way. And then wrist circle going the other way. Slowly bring the left hand down. We'll bring our right hand to the side of our chair. And as you inhale, bring your left arm up and over, leaning towards the side. Make sure you roll your left shoulder back, opening your heart here. Taking deep breaths. Feeling the left ribs expand with each inhale. Next inhale, bring yourself up. We'll do the other side, so left hand's on the chair. Inhale your right arm up. Roll the right shoulder back. Reach as you inhale. Exhale to fold, getting into that right side body. Inhale to come back up. Our last stretch will be for our hips, so we tend to sit a lot, so this is a nice hip opener. Taking your right leg, bring your right ankle on your left knee, so you'll be creating a figure 4. Try to push that right knee down as much as you can, and then flex your toes towards your knee to protect the knee. You can stay here if you feel that stretch in your right outer hip, or you can take a nice inhale. And as you exhale, begin to hinge forwards from the hips until you feel that stretch on your right outer hip. We'll do 3 breaths here. Inhale to come up. Doing the other side, gently bring your right leg down, left ankle to your right knee. Once again, you're creating that figure 4 shape, pressing that knee down, flexing your toes towards the left knee. Take a nice inhale here, staying here if you feel that stretch, or exhaling as you hinge forwards. 3 breaths. Next, inhale, slowly bring yourself up, bringing that left foot down. We'll go into our breathing exercise, so let's get nice and comfortable on our chair, letting your lower back rest against the back of your chair, rolling those shoulder blades back and down, pressing the shoulders back. We'll take our right hand, placing it on our belly, left hand to our heart. Closing your eyes here, begin to feel the belly rise and fall with each inhale and exhale. Feeling our natural breath here. On your next inhale, feel your belly rise and then your ribs expand, and finally your chest lifts, coming to the top of the breath below the throat. On the exhale, the breath leaves the chest, your ribs fall, and your belly contracts. Continue with this breath, feeling all 3 parts of your breath, and think to yourself, belly, ribs, chest, chest, ribs, belly. We'll repeat this breath 2 more times. After your second exhale, we'll now begin to feel the breath as a wave coming up from the belly, rising to the top of the breath beneath the throat. Hold this breath for 2 counts, and then let the breath go in a wave from the chest to the belly. Continue with this wave-like breath, rolling in and up, holding the breath for 2, and then rolling out like a tide. Feel the complete cycles of each breath and focus only on your breath. We'll finish a final cycle of this breath. And after a complete exhale, return to your natural breath. Feel the calmness in your breath. Feel ease and steadiness. Keeping your eyes closed, gently bring your hands to prayer at heart center. We'll rub the hands together. And then take the hands and place them over your eyes, absorbing the heat. Feeling calm and ready for the next portion of this event, gently blink your eyes open. I hope you're all feeling nice and relaxed and ready to go into some networking. Thank you to the CTPA team for inviting Avia and I to take part in this event, and I'll pass it on to Hira now. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya, for that relaxing session. I was actually quite nervous to do the closing remarks, but now I feel like anything is possible, so thank you for that. So next on the agenda, we have a few announcements regarding some upcoming events. The mentorship team is back with this webinar series that is starting on October 6th. So each webinar will build on one another to ensure you walk away feeling confident about your skills. A reminder that our mentorship programs application also closes on September 30th. So if you or anyone is interested in joining the program, please reach out. We also have CTPA's Career Convention coming up. The convention will take place on September 18th and 19th, and you will be able to connect with industry professionals and advisors to seek resume revision, cover letter critique, a LinkedIn profile review, or even a one-on-one coaching and mentorship session. Last but not least, we're also hiring across all levels from directors to heads and team members across all portfolios. So it is a great way to meet new people, give back to the community, and also to stay connected with the Canadian Tamil professional community. If you're interested in any of these opportunities, please reach out to our team and we can provide you more details and information. So now, before we end off the night, we thanked many individuals, but this event and our social media campaign, #IamATamilProfessional, would not have been possible if not for our signature events team. A huge thank you to Abisha, the head of signature events, and our team associates, Nishani and Janisha. These ladies are the visionaries behind this event. Congrats team, and thank you for lighting the fire and beginning the conversation. I would also like to recognize a team of individuals who have worked behind the scenes. They are the color and creativity behind Toast. Everything from our website to our online marketing, our social media campaign post, and our annual booklet was designed by this beautiful team. A special thanks to Nanslin, the Director of Marketing, and her team, Sabrina, Malika, Luxi, Tharujan, Pravina, Zobika, Abinaya, and Frederick. A huge thank you on behalf of our team. Before we sign off, I would like to make a quick toast. So if I can ask my panelists and my team off screen to come back online, and for anyone joining us today to raise a glass or a mug or any drink around you. Here's a toast to Maya's, Rajenti's, Samantha's, and Sugan's success. A heartfelt thank you to the individuals on the front lines continuously working to serve and protect our community during this pandemic, and to CTPA's success, and to the journey of each and every one of you who have accomplished or are currently on your path to accomplishing your goals. Here's a toast. So let's raise our glass and give us a toast. Cheers to us. So thank you all for joining us today. I would like to end off by reiterating Winston Churchill's quote on resilience. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Let's continue to be resilient. For those attending the third networking segment, please use the link sent to your emails to join back. Don't forget about your chance to win a one-on-one leadership coaching session with Parm. To everyone else, please have a beautiful weekend, stay safe, and thank you for taking part in our conversation.